All right, we're going to do a head-to-head smoke comparison between YOLO and Old Rusty. One light, everybody knows the rules. Little Bud's gonna judge, isn't that right, buddy? Or nap, either way. Each contestant in this competition has the exact same 2 sheets of crumpled newspaper, approximately the same weight in kindling sticks, 1 larger kindling piece of wood, 2 split logs, and 2 still whole but smaller logs that are what we call wet cabin wood, because they're just junk wood that comes from our cabin. The split stuff is good hardwood. So, oh, and 1 leafy stick, which I know is against, YOLO stove instruction. 1 light, everybody knows the rules. We're gonna light these at the same time. A couple things we wanna watch for. We wanna watch for who smokes more, obviously, right? Because that's one of the things we're trying to overcome with the solo stove. But we also wanna see burn time, quality of the burn, maybe heat, I don't know. We can compare a couple different things. So that's what we're gonna do. And we got the Yo's, in case things get out of hand.
At this point in the burn, I am quite surprised. YOLO is off to a smoky start. Pun, of course, intended. It's a little rough here getting going. YOLO stove is clearly making more smoke than Old Rusty, which is quite a surprise. Was not expecting that in the least. Of the 4 or 5 times I've used this solo stove so far, haven't had this difficulty of a time getting it to light, but it looks like she's starting to get some flame in there. Still a substantial amount of smoke. Old Rusty had a log roll away, so I figured we better restack it just to keep it as equitable as possible. We are now 7 minutes into the burn at this point, and there does not appear to be a clear winner overall. I would say solo stoves probably put off the most amount of smoke, but right now they're, pretty close to equal, fairly neck and neck. We do still have those leaves not burned in the solo stove. You might be able to see those just under the brim of the solo stove there, so I imagine that'll create a little bit of smoke when that gets going, where I think Old Rusty's strategy, he's already burned them and overall produced less smoke. We'll see who pulls out ahead here. One thing you'll notice is I keep adjusting the camera settings to allow more or less light through the aperture. That way we can hopefully see more or less smoke, so I'll keep doing that throughout. I know that's kind of annoying to watch visually, but I'm trying to, get it so we can see the smoke the best through the camera lens. Old Rusty is really smoking at this point. Not sure what its strategy was, but don't think it's going to win if it keeps doing this. We'll get a different angle here so you can see what's going on inside. One of the things I've noticed at this point right now is the sound quality between the two of them. Obviously, we don't got a lot of flame and got a lot of smoke coming out of Old Rusty. Not much going on for sound there, but YOLO stove, we got this nice kind of rich crackling sound. Just a good classic, it could almost be a Christmas Yule log campfire sound going there. It's pretty good. We're now at the 20-minute mark, so I think there's a little bit of benefit of walking around and seeing exactly what's going on in each of these. Here's Old Rusty. I don't know if you can hear that audio. We got our wet logs. See some sizzling coming out the end there. There's Old Rusty. Here's YOLO. Now, I'll tell you anecdotally, you can feel a lot more heat right here. And you can right here. And that makes sense because there's not much for coals or any of the like there. If you look over here, we got a lot more flame, a lot more coal, a lot more burning going on.
So that is definitely giving off more heat. That definitely is giving off more smoke. It'd be nice if we had a dark background instead of the White House, but here's where we are at the 20-minute mark. This guy's just about smoldered himself out. Not much for flame. There's a little bit right there hanging on. Yellow's bringing the heat. Figuratively and literally.
Oh, how the turns have tabled at this point. It looks like Old Rusty is putting out the most smoke and Yellow Stove is putting out very little. Pretty clear, clean amount of smoke, a lot of flame. But Old Rusty is, he's smoking up the joint. Well, here we are at the 30-minute mark, and it is pretty much time to call it 30 minutes out. Old Rusty is smoked himself pretty much dead, and Yellow Stove is got a nice flame going strong. I decided to, knowing how the Solo Stove works with its bringing in air from the bottom and bringing it up into the top, I thought it would be interesting to try to add some air and reproduce the same condition or a similar condition with the leaf blower and Old Rusty to see if we could get him to get a second life. Now, you know, one light, everyone knows the rules. This isn't technically a light, but I am trying to experiment a little bit with seeing the effect that introducing more airflow has on the fire, which I think is why the Solo Stove is so successful at reburning most of those combustion gases that we see as smoke. Smoke is an unhad chemical reaction. It's combustion that hasn't happened because there wasn't enough oxygen to mix with it to complete the chemical reaction. Solo Stove is definitely a lot hotter at this point, and so if you're looking for a good warm bonfire, that's going to be the route to go. Had some old sticks to burn, so figured why not give them to Old Rusty and see if he can pull out the W. Everyone loves an underdog story after all. Well, here we are, friends, at the 58-minute mark, and that is pretty much a wrap. Old Rusty has smoldered himself out and gonna see a lot more out of him.
This one's definitely much warmer. Of course, if you get down below kind of here, it doesn't feel as warm. I'm sure that's hot if you touch it, but...
So we have to finish burning these logs up, and I figure why not take them from Old Rusty and put them in the Solar Stove, because the Solar Stove is clearly much more better at burning them. Humans have, of course, been looking into fires, gazing into flames for thousands of years, thinking about the finer things of life, maybe even the more complicated things of life, or even the simpler things of life. There is something mesmerizing about staring into the abyss of just the dancing flames, and you could say it's romantic, you could maybe even say poetic, but those words don't even really tend to do it justice. I was even amazed at how innate this is when I was watching my son the first few bonfires we had. His eyes were glued to the flame. He literally could not look away. If you moved to turn away from the flame as you were holding him, he would crawl around you to try to peer around your body to keep watching it. He was just so impressed by it. And so as I'm looking in this flame, one of the things I'm thinking about is this idea that what we do not cultivate in our lives, we will lose. And there is this active ongoing cultivation that we have to have with everything in our lives, things that are tangible and things that are intangible, or to say it another way, what you do not steward well, you will also lose. If you don't work to steward, if you don't work to cultivate the things in your life, eventually they will cease to bear fruit, cease to be productive for you, and you will lose them altogether if you do not work to maintain them and take care of them. I suppose it's not all that different than the carpenter who says, "For to the one who has, more will be given, but to the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away." What seems to be true of a bonfire in this is also true of much of our lives. So looking back to our original criteria of who smokes more, that is definitely Old Rusty. So yellow stove coming in hot. As far as temperature as well, the heat of the fire was definitely a lot more comfortable around the yellow stove. Old Rusty smokes like a sailor. Is that a phrase? I suppose it can be. Why not? So overall burn quality, yellow stove is going to be a little bit better there as well, just because it dealt, I'd say, better with the wet wood. It was off to a rough start at first, but overall pulled through. Once it gets going, you know, it starts that convective loop, draws that air in, and it just keeps burning it. So I don't know, look over the footage. Obviously here on YouTube you can watch it and high speed, slow speed, whatever you want to do, and kind of see what you think for yourself, if you know who puts out more smoke and who definitely burns more efficiently. So let me know what you think in the comments below. If you want to see the original unboxing video of this yellow stove, you can check that out here on my channel as well. So hopefully if you're in the market for a new bonfire and are trying to decide, you know, is it worth spending that much money on a YOLO stove? That's why we've colloquially referred to it around our household as the YOLO stove, short for the You Only Live Once stove, because it is like $600. Although I'll tell you, it does look like it goes on sale a few times throughout the year for somewhere between like $450 and $500. So that might be worth watching for, you know, your Father's Day sales, Black Friday sales, Christmas sales, Independence Day sales. I'm sure there's a bunch of different sales and stuff, but hope you found that helpful.